Rams Patriots, very different game. Again, I think if we would have been previewing this specific game 10 days ago, we're talking about it like it's going to be a Rams blowout here, but it's in New England. Mm-hmm. New England's coming off a win against the Chicago Bears, and the Rams now coming off a really disappointing loss against the Dolphins. No disrespect to the Dolphins, but it's really how they lost in particular, which brings up my matchup that matters from the game, and that is the Rams offensive line versus the Patriots defensive line. I mentioned this a little bit in the previous game that we were previewing when we were talking about the Dolphins and how they fared against the Rams offensive line, but Jonah Jackson, Steve Avila, Joe Noteboom back in the lineup. Those guys hadn't been back in the lineup since two of them, it was week 1, and the other one, it was week 2. They haven't been here for most of the season. Now they're back in the lineup. The highest blocking grade, Carmen, was a 65.3. Most of the guys on the offensive line for the Rams against the Dolphins was a 60 or below. And again, this is a Dolphins. I don't want to take anything away from them, but this defensive line for Miami hasn't been good most of the year. So now I got to sit here and be like, oh boy, okay, now do I have to have a lot of doubts for the Rams because I was just about to get excited for them. Patriots defensive line against the Bears offensive line. They had 8 sacks last week, 21 pressures. Now I mentioned when we were talking about the Bears, some of that's on Caleb Williams. Sometimes not all sacks are against an offensive line. Sometimes they can be a quarterback stat. But this is shaping up to be a little bit more of a strength and weakness matchup than we thought that it was going to be. I certainly thought it was going to be 10 days ago, and I think the numbers certainly proved that. So do the Rams have a bounce back performance with their offensive line? I think they will be better than what they were last week. But what does it look like against now a hungry, motivated, coming off of a victory New England Patriots team that gets to host this one in New England? So that is my matchup that matters. What's your matchup that matters here?
Yeah, I'm flipping it around on you again. It's the Rams defensive line against the Patriots offensive line, because the Rams defensive line, as we've seen, despite the fact that they lost Aaron Donald to retirement, they have made up for that beautifully. It hasn't been a one-to-one thing, but you have guys like Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, these rookies that are just blossoming this year. I can't say enough about Jared Verse. I think that you see that Monday night game, and despite the loss, you see that, okay, Jared Verse is by far and away, maybe not by far and away, because I do love Quinyon Mitchell, but he is in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, and it seems like that picture is becoming clearer. And you contrast that with what the Patriots offensive line has been able to do this season. Now, they were better against the Chicago Bears, who only got 1 sack on Drake May in this last game, but really nothing was going right for the Chicago Bears. Are you going to be able to stand up to this Rams defensive line that really has been such a bright spot for this defense? The Patriots offensive line still, even after this last week, 50.8 PFF grade overall. That's last in the league. They have the second worst pass blocking grade in the league. They have the last ranked run blocking grade. Like, they're not doing anything well right now. And that was why we were all so concerned about Drake May coming into the lineup a few weeks ago, because you're like, to what point and purpose you're going to get this kid killed? Now he's been showing off his athleticism, which I'll get to in a little bit more, and he's been getting himself out of situations and still been efficient, and he's growing kind of as the weeks are going on. But it's not really thanks to this Patriots offensive line, and how is that going to stand up against what the strength of this Rams defense is, and that's their defensive line.
I think we sort of have a similar plus factor here. So I'm actually going to let you go first, and I'll just sort of piggyback, because I think we'll be able to build a compelling argument for a plus factor together if we unite here. But what is your plus factor in this?
Teamwork makes the dream work, Trev. My plus factor is Drake May.
Has to be.
It has to be. And again, we saw him in this game against the Bears really do well. And honestly, if you look back at what's happened in the last 6 games, he's had 3 games with over 200 yards passing, 4 games with over a 60% completion rate. And again, when we're talking about the fact that he does not have an offensive line in front of him that can be trusted, you see him scrambling and doing things like running the football and getting himself out of these situations that really allows him to extend plays and then make good decisions too by throwing the ball away or what have you. He's starting to kind of grasp, you can tell, this offense, the speed of the game. He's getting better incrementally, which is all you can ask for. Like, we, again, have to remember, he's only been in for 6 games at this point. He was brought in a lot later and then the rest of the rookie quarterback class, at least the main ones that we talk about, and yet he is now kind of keeping pace with a lot of those guys, save for probably Jaden Daniels.
Drake May's been awesome.
Yeah.
In case anybody out there missed the quarterback showcase show that we did on Tuesday here on this channel, Seth Galena, we always talk about quarterbacks every single week. We talk about like 2 to 3 of these guys. And I was sort of opening up the floor to him, and I was like, who do you want to talk about? And he's watching some of the quarterbacks and everything, and he just messaged me back. He's like, Drake May is the sickest player in the league. And obviously he's a little bit hyperbolic. There's a lot of great quarterbacks out there. He's not saying that he's the best quarterback, but it is so much fun to watch Drake May now in this offense, because if you go back to when Jacoby Brissett was the starter, and sort of, bouncing off of your topic about the Patriots offensive line, you didn't want him to get killed out there, right? I mean, you didn't want to throw this rookie to the wolves behind a bad offensive line, and mainly you didn't want him to get hurt. But if you told me, okay, well, he's not going to get hurt, then this is exactly what you wanted to see. Against the Chicago Bears, was it perfect? No, of course it wasn't. He threw 3 turnover-worthy plays, but he also had 3 big-time throws. And he's attempting throws, and he is putting stress on defenses in ways that are so unique. And I'm excited for this matchup in particular, because it's Matthew Stafford, a quarterback that Drake May looks at stylistically and probably says, I want to be you. Like, I want to be that type of a quarterback with all these crazy different arm angles and being able to throw the ball off platform, and just how he reads defenses and how he challenges deep down the fields and to the sidelines with those tight window throws consistently, or the over the middle stuff, all of that. And you're going to have one of those quarterbacks on one side and Drake May on the other. There were plays against the Chicago Bears that Drake May made with his arm, I'll get to his legs in a second, that even him attempting those passes, there was one where it was sort of like a flick of the wrist that was 40 yards deep down the field.
That's all.
Sure, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, maybe you're not going to complete all those passes, but when you even attempt those things and get them as close as he did, the defense goes, wait a second, you can do that? And so I think that fear that he puts into defenses is different than Jacoby Brissett was able to do when he was out there. Again, all due respect, Gator great. But it is what he is doing with his legs that I think is the part that we really need to emphasize the most. Since week 6, so since May has been the starter, he has the most rushing yards and the highest rushing grade of any quarterback in the NFL. We love to talk about the arm. I just talked about the arm. But what he is doing with his legs as a legit dual threat quarterback is something that I don't think is getting talked enough about. And that to me is why he is the ultimate plus factor in this game, because how he plays and how he performs, especially as a runner, it's going to mean a lot for who wins this game. It's going to be a fun one. I'm really excited for that one with those two quarterbacks going against each other, because again, it is sort of Drake May and kind of what he is as a rookie in his season. And it's Matthew Stafford, one of the great vets in this game, one of the most clutch throwers, somebody who can still launch the ball from all different types of ways. And May, if May becomes Matthew Stafford, like that's the goal, like to be that type of a quarterback. And I'm very excited when we get these types of matchups there. Brown. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below. So if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.